Matthews will come back. Nylander will come back. Many of the other players, Tanev, and I don't know where Morgan Riley sits today, but many of them are coming back. But it's going to be new. It's going to be the start of something new, no matter what.
It's funny, you mentioned about him being new. The phrase "we did a lot of great things," he says at the end, which kind of made me wince because God, did Sheldon Keefe get buried for a lot of respect in the handshake line this year, because we're right there, we're a tougher out. That was something that for years was like, ha ha ha.
I think, but from his perspective, and a lot to your point about him being new, for him, from his perspective, coming in first year, gets him to Game 7 in the second round against the Stanley Cup champions in a vacuum. That is a good year. They did do some good things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They won the division.
But not here. Not with the scars of this fan base.
Year, is it 11 for Brendan Shanahan or 10?
I think he's through 11.
It would be 11.
Not
right?
in the 11th year of his program.
Yeah.
You can't get a pat on the back.
No.
This is, again, he's at the beginning of the end, Craig Berube.
And I think the onus is on him a little bit to know where you're at in the team's cycle as well. But it's tough for him because, what's he supposed to say? They didn't do anything good all year. He can't say anything about the overall success of the team. He has to be his own
to break
resume a little bit, right? And say, perspective, guys, we did, I get him saying that, but anyway, I get why people don't love it.
Yeah. He couldn't answer the other night about what happened in Game 5 and Game 7. Did he revisit that, Sam?
Luke, our Luke Fox,
who will join us in about half an hour,
asked him about the between the ears comment that he made after the game, and how it would affect them, and what he just basically asked him to revisit that, and this was his answer. If you want to play it, Derek. Clip 3.
When I talked about that and I thought about these games, last couple days, and there's a lot of things that go through your mind in these big games, from a mental standpoint. And, you may not have your A game in these games, but what you have to rely on is your structure. And when I look at these games and I look at the situations that arrived and, hurt us in these games, we lost our structure. And that's very important that we take this away and that we come back next year. Structure is very important. And if you don't lose your structure, you can get through these games without having your A game.
Chris.
We have, the organization has...
Structure, then Berube says. I've heard that before. What did you?
Yeah, I don't like it because I don't like it because there's a team on the other side that will take a look at your structure and shut it down
and break it.
Pound right through.
To keep asking them to go back to the structure that's getting shut down by your opposition is no good. So either you make adjustments or you change your structure.
Or you lose.
It's not working. Mm-hmm. And for him to keep going back and ask them to do the things that aren't working is not helpful in trying to beat the Florida Panthers.
It's funny because the same thing that has earned him a lot of praise lately, that patience and that consistency of message, can easily be spun to stubbornness and an unwillingness to adapt.
Or adjust.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's what we saw at times there where it was like, all right, we just got to do this one thing better. And they kept trying to do the one thing better. And it's like, what if that's not the right one thing to be doing? And I think by the end of it, when you lose by 5 goals in Game 5 and lose by 5 goals in Game 7, even if you had done the thing better, would you lose by 3, 2? You lose. Yeah. So, I don't know. There's some frustration there.
Listen, for us and for people watching, we praise, hey, patience, great. He's calm, great. As long as you're winning, right?
Yeah.
But when you don't start winning and you try to stay consistent with it, and sometimes you can work your way through it and then it can come back in your favor. Listen, we're like the wind, man. You win, no one's going to say anything bad about your structure or your system or your patience or your calmness. But you got to win. You got to come out on top. And when you don't, people are going to question it. And people have a right to question Craig Berube.
Yeah. And I think this is maybe the first time, when they've finally lost here, where you kind of hear some people going, maybe we won't default to everything he says and does is exactly correct. For a lot of the season, first year, benefit of the doubt and all that. But, throughout the year, one of our criticisms was, let's try a couple of things here. Let's see if it works with this guy here or that guy there, or try a second system, a second breakout. Never really happened. And then come playoffs, it did end up being, I would say somewhat to our credit, that ended up being what undid them at the end.
And, to the structure thing, so like it's not between, doesn't everything go when you're nervous? Like, aren't you like, you got
thinking clear.
You lean back on your structure, being in your quote unquote, I've said structure more times than I've said it in my life in this last 5 minutes, but like, isn't that part of what goes where you forget where you're supposed to be? You're not, getting to your spot. Like, I'm not X's and O's here, but like being nervous and being afraid in a big game probably affects that structure. So,
what's interesting is the story, Kip, that I'm hearing the most since the Leafs have won is this pressure story.
They lost me.
What's that?
Since they lost?
Since they lost. Yeah,
you
whatever.
said since they won.
Oh, my bad. Since they lost is pressure.
Yeah.
And the pressure of the market and the pressure these guys are under and whatever. And I know we're going to talk about that, and these guys were asked about it a little bit. I got to tell you, I didn't hear one player on the Leafs say that the pressure got to them. I didn't hear a single guy say it, and that's good. It's like a story that came from the media only, and typically I'm not the
No, it was the Panthers.
Sure.
The Panthers did it.
Sure, if the Panthers want to be the ones being like, they felt the pressure, that's fine. I haven't heard anyone. Everyone's like, these players who say they can't handle the pressure, they don't want to be in the market, or they can't. None of the players have said anything. This has been entirely the Florida Panthers. So I don't, we're all over these guys for talking about not wanting to handle the pressure of the market. None of them said it.
I don't think we've ever really had conversations that they buckle under pressure.
Well,
I think we asked the question, why do they continually underperform in the big moments? And pressure's a viable answer to that.
But
none of them have ever claimed it.
But boys, I mean, we are part of the pressure. The pressure is a ecosystem of us that talk about it every day, the fans that care about it more than any